Yep, welcome back to SeaBed. Last time, last time things sort of went off rail. God, I guess first of all we found out that Narasaki was a doll. She wasn't a real person. Which there's definitely been like indications of something of that nature. I don't know, like specifically her as being a doll. I don't know if that specifically has been into that. Like aside from the fact that dolls are like a reappearing element in the story, and Narasaki does always have a doll like around her. But like, there's obviously been something weird with her relationship with Takako and Sachiko, where like she acts as if she's known them for forever, but we never see her interact with any of them in the flashbacks. So yeah, that we found that out, and then we had a whole dream sequence. No, it wasn't a dream sequence. Narasaki explicitly said that wasn't a dream. We had a fucking memento, like a mind palace sequence where Sachiko is inside of her mind, and she talked with Narasaki and young Takako, and apparently the sanatorium is in Sachiko's mind. And I don't know, man. It got pretty wild. Hopefully we get some more answers here. Yeah, okay, she was trying to fall asleep, if I recall. True identity. Put Narasaki on. Oh, we are Narasaki, actually, yeah. Okay. Our voices might have grown too loud as Takako began lightly squirming on Sachiko's lap. Sachiko put her hand on Takako's head, making her calm down. Perhaps I was just curious why Takako was so excited about everything. I could see Takako's closed eyelids through Sachiko's hands. They relaxed for a second and seemed about to open, but closed tight again. Her ponytail cast a long shadow in the lighter's light. I felt my body grow heavy as I observed her. I could really go for a drink. Perhaps. I slowly stood up, feeling like a statue made of stone. I should be on my way. So how do we leave? She said like 5 times that you need to fall asleep to leave. I'll walk out. You should just go to sleep if you start feeling drowsy. That's all I need to do? Yeah, she said this a million times, yeah. I'll leave the lighter with you. Having stayed in this darkness for so long, it's possible your conscience might melt to wear something before you can get a chance to grow sleepy. Okay, no, I think we're just seeing the same conversation again, but from Narasaki's POV. Don't leave this area, okay? Okay. Well then, I turned towards the darkness. Are you going to be okay? Sachiko asked. It's no big deal. Is there anything else bothering you? No, I'm sure it'll be fine, no matter what happens. I will. Don't you need any light? My eyes have gotten used to the dark by now. I see. Good night and sweet dreams. Thanks. I walked for a while, then glanced back. The light had turned into a vague orange dot in the distance. As I continued on, it began moving forward. It began moving toward the left before completely disappearing, almost like the setting sun. From here on out, I'd be in complete darkness. The floor was the first thing that disappeared from my vision. I couldn't even tell if I was ascending or descending a slope. I glanced down to realize I couldn't see my legs anymore. The darkness crawled up and up, until I couldn't even see the tip of my nose. With my eyes completely unable to perceive light, I had no way of telling where I was. I strained my senses to try and feel for something, but all I managed to discern was the thick darkness pressing heavy against my skin. The more I walked, the heavier it got. I remembered a TV program where they carried out an experiment by submerging a water bottle and a ball in the sea. Both ended up crushed by water pressure. Okay, what was the result of that experiment? I felt as though the darkness was seeping into me through my eyes and skin. It was slowing my pace. I feared it might immobilize me completely. I continued pressing forward with all my strength when an image appeared in the darkness. I turned my face away and closed my eyes to let it pass. However, the image wasn't created by the light, but my own mind. Do you have your own mind? Are you now just a figment of Sachiko's imagination? Oh, this scene again. I could hear the cry of cicadas around me. There was a small mountain of sand piled up in the middle of the sandbox with a tunnel passing right through it. Countless water canals surrounded it on all sides. Finishing her masterpiece, Takako stood up and shook the sand off her hands. Oh. Hello? She turned to the water supply Sachiko was sitting in front of. Tatsuko had a doll and a towel in her hands. What are you doing? Is this a doll's POV? She was wiping the doll's face with a wet towel, I think it is. Her face got dirty. Did you get it off? It's not working. There were some visible brown stains on the face of Sachiko's doll. Let's ask the nurse. Nurse! Takako let out a loud shout. What happened? A young woman who had been tidying up the toys scattered inside the building turns to Takako with the yellow toy car in hand. Oh god, is the... I should have thought of this. I'm so stupid. The nurse is fucking... What's her name? Mayuko. The nurse is Mayuko, obviously. The nurse is Mayuko, obviously. Why didn't I think of that before? That's so obvious. Come on. I'm mad at myself. The doll got dirty. Can you get it cleaned up? The somewhat feisty looking woman approached him and looked at Sachiko's doll over Takako's head. This looks like a stain. I guess it'd be possible to wash it out if you undid the sewing, but then it might actually fall apart. Sachiko's fingers clutched the doll tighter. You can't fix it? I don't think it's worth the risk. Sachiko considered the doll's face for a long while. Make sure to take care of her if you want to keep playing with her. The nurse gently patted Sachiko's head a few times. Memories were leaking forth from the deepest corner of my mind, from the very boundary of the conscious and the subconscious. As the vision paused, I instead focused my senses on my limbs. I balled my hand into a fist with all my strength, successfully swaying my consciousness away from that memory. With that, I once again returned to the pitch-black darkness. It seemed I had stopped before I realized. I didn't know how long I was lost in the memory. When I resumed walking, I couldn't even tell if I was really moving or not. Before long, I could no longer sense my body at all. Well now, I said, unable to tell if I was really hearing my own words or if they came from some distant memory again. It felt as though my arms and legs had melted into the darkness. Perhaps I had returned to being just a doll like in those memories. I inhaled a deep breath and slowly let it out. I remembered how I talked to Sachiko just earlier. She said it was odd to see me and Takako together. And in a moment, I felt something different about her. Her expression and body language seemed to have grown richer. However, I couldn't tell what that meant. I wondered if I should tell her, but in the end I decided not to. The lighter's light had been flickering in front of Sachiko's eyes, and from her perspective, I should have been sitting right beyond it. Even ever so faintly, feeling it return to the tip of my toes and fingers. I calculated where my head was supposed to be from their position and fixed my eyes on the darkness. Okay, this is very strange. It was a real thing, complete darkness that melted the consciousness away. A phenomenon very similar to death. With some feeling having returned to my fingers, I began rhythmically moving them in an attempt to hypnotize myself. My legs moved unconsciously, my eyes could have seen anything, but my heart wouldn't move. All sorts of images appeared in front of my eyes. Nonetheless, my legs pushed me ever onwards. Sachiko took a box off the top shelf of the closet, checked what was inside, then returned it to the same place. There were 2 more boxes in the closet. They had Takako's written on them in big letters. Sachiko pulled the biggest box into the room and looked at the many other boxes she had collected. There were already 2 transparent containers in front of the closet. She moved one of them with her leg and placed a box beside it. Inside the box there were carving knives, a flute, a knitting set, and all sorts of other trinkets that Takako probably used back in school. Sachiko took them out of the box one by one, separating each item into 2 categories: important things and trash. She crushed a paper bag that was mixed with the other articles and put it into the trash container. There's a radio cassette player underneath it. She plugged it into the electrical socket and flipped its switch. A familiar melody filled the cold, gloomy room through the static. Sachiko turned around and looked at the bed. The doll she left on the edge had fallen down to the floor. Yeah, Narasaki. Sachiko reached out and picked it up. His lips had frozen into a perpetual, almost confrontational smile. Its somewhat sardonic expression as it looked over the room made the doll appear almost like it was eager to ask a question or two. This too brings back memories, but I was looking for something else, said Sachiko as she turned the cassette player off. The melody stopped and the cold, gloomy room once again fell into silence. Sachiko took out a blue rectangle-shaped can from another box. There were several radio cassettes inside. Back in middle school, Takako recorded her own radio shown onto a cassette. Who are you talking to? I wonder which one it was. I believe it should have a yellow tape. Are you talking to the doll? Sachiko took out a yellow cassette tape from the can and pushed it into the player. The cassette holder sounded a rusty yet vigorous click. Sachiko put her finger on the play button and hesitated for a few moments, then pressed it. An old pop sound began playing from the player. As the song ended, Takako's voice suddenly rang out through the static. She said it was the first song she'd ever bought. Then she said this was her first recording and congratulated herself. Her show was basically her talking about her day and introducing music she liked. There were no guest corners or letter reading sessions, of course. Okay. I tried listening to a radio show at night and it was much more fun than I expected. When I told Takako about it, she brought this tape to school the next day. She said it was really weird to hear her own voice come through the recorder, and that she now wanted to learn how to sing or something. Sachiko smiled. She then continued to talk about the history of the old cassette player. It used to be in Tako's house, and the two listened to the radio and the cassettes they bought. Sachiko paused and listened to the song Tako had introduced. She then began talking again. She shared her personal information with an almost gleeful expression. Sachiko continued listening to the tape with the doll in her lap. Before I realized it, she had closed her eyes. I couldn't tell if she was sleeping or just absorbed in the music. The tape suddenly stopped in the middle of Tako's speech. This reminds me of, this was an offhand detail, but I think it was in the sanatorium, early on. They mentioned that the building had a media room, right? They had a media room where they played, like music and stuff from the speaker. I forgot if that was in the sanatorium or if that was in the tips, though, actually. No, I think that was in the tips. I think I'm misremembering. Yeah, I'm actually, never mind. I think that was in the tips. That wasn't in the sanatorium. But still. Because that was a weird detail. And I don't think either the sanatorium or the hotel, I don't think in either of those a media room has been mentioned. Shichiko opened her eyes and took the tape out. She flipped it around, put it back into the holder, and pressed the play button. Now that I think about it, we dropped by Tako's whole house sometime after getting our first jobs, but this cassette player was no longer there by that time. It sounded like we would have listened to it anyway, but... She faced the doll, but her eyes were gazing somewhere far away. She seemed to have been wondering why they weren't listening to music. If I could go back in time, I'd love to show her some better songs. Sachiko stood up and picked up the cassette player with one hand while holding the doll in the other. She then walked over to the bed. She sat down on its edge, placing the player on the side table and the doll by her pillow. Sachiko turned around and saw Takako on the bed. She extended her hand and touched her. I'll play my favorite song next. A very old western song came to life for the speakers. I looked up the meaning of the lyrics. Everything has a meaning. Even if I don't have them now, time will bring me the answers. This is my favorite song. I don't know why, but I really like it. I hope I'll eventually come to understand why. What an idiot, Sachiko murmured. Nonetheless, she made a smile. Perhaps she recalled the time when they listened to that song together. Tako said it would be the last song for the day, then began playing. As the song came to an end and the tape stopped, the room felt completely silent. Okay, so again, this is the room that Narasaki fucking got transported to for a second in the tips. Last time I said that my theory was that this was Takako, or like Sachiko and Takako's room by the time she got sick, and that's why there's curtains around the bed and everything. And that would also explain why in the last scene we saw of this, Takako was like seeing Sachiko off as she was going to work, and Takako was not going to work, maybe because she was sick. Sachiko realized that her doorbell was ringing. She didn't know whether she had fallen asleep or simply too deep in thought, but by the time she glanced at the clock, it was already midnight. Still, the doorbell was definitely ringing. It was kind of scary. Sachiko noticed a light coming from one of the rooms. She went to bed before sunset, so there was no way she'd turn on any of the lights. She glanced at the doll by the pillow and embraced it. She listened to the sound in her bitterly cold bed. The sound of the doorbell seemed to have gone distant. What am I supposed to do? I could have sworn she said something. However, both her words and the doorbell became barely audible to me. It felt as though everything we observed was happening somewhere far away in another world. I stepped on something and almost tripped. It felt softer than the rocky grounds I'd been walking on so far. Upon kicking it, I heard a wooden thump. I prodded it a few more times with my toes, making it quiver. The quivering extended across the entire cave, turning into rumbling. What is that? A train? Two bright lights lit up as it traveled through the area. I looked down to see train tracks below my feet. I shaded my eyes with my hand and looked around, eventually spotting a hole in the wall. I stepped into the hole just moments before the giant object with headlights zoomed past me. The light from its window was flickering in the darkness. It didn't when we passed through the cave on the way to the onsen, I think Nanae mentioned that this used to be... that trains used to pass by in the cave, right? Or did they still pass in the cave? I forget. I think there were definitely train tracks though, right? I don't know if it's the same cave they're in right now, but I couldn't make out any human-shaped silhouettes beyond said windows though. After the train had passed, I climbed out of the hole and brushed the dust off my clothes. Looking in the direction the train went, I could see the light of the outside world. I followed the train tracks outside, eventually emerging into a forest covered by fog. The moon perched in the dark blue sky right above the mountains and trees. I didn't know what time it was. Following the now abandoned railway line, I eventually made out the roof of the mansion looming beyond the trees. It snowed. The familiar pathway led me back to the western style mansion I knew so well. As I emerged on the road leading to the library, I took a turn towards the entrance of the mansion's inner yard. The doors weren't locked. Yeah, there's the carpet. There was no carpet when Takako was here. Also, it didn't have the little sign that said the reception desk. I don't think this flower vase was here. I turned the doorknob and silently stepped inside. The lights weren't on in the corridor leading to the lobby, so I couldn't see very far. Making my way down the corridor, I managed to reach the lobby. The grandfather clocked hard to my right. Its arrows displayed the time as 4 o'clock. Oh my god, jump scare. Thinking about how much time I had until sunrise, I was just about to ascend the stairway when I noticed the silhouette of someone behind the counter. Good evening. The silhouette addressed me in Lily's voice. Good evening. Then I was really worried when you didn't show up for dinner. With no moonlight, it was darker inside the lobby than outside. As a result, even though my eyes had grown used to the dark outside, I still couldn't make her out very well in the room. I couldn't tell what kind of expression she wore, but despite the reprimanding content of her words, I felt a gentle and caring air from her. I made a sour face. I felt like a kid that broke her curfew. I'm sorry. Lily turned to the side and made a light yawn. Who are you seeing right now? Like, who are you talking to? Have you been waiting for me here all this time? Lily slowly shook her head. Does it make sense if I assume that whenever any character is talking to Narasaki, they think that they're talking to... like from their POV, they're talking to Sachiko? Does that make sense? I guess it does explain the whole business with the ghost chair, right? the scene where Lily told the ghost story, and I kept complaining that there were too many chairs in the room compared to what was described. If we assume that Narasaki doesn't exist, and really she was just talking to Sachiko, who is sleeping on the other chair, or I guess who we thought was sleeping, if we assume that's what was happening, then it does make sense that she would sit in that chair, and the number of chairs does line up in that case. I'm trying to think what other scenes where Narasaki talks with someone. There's a lot of scenes where Narasaki talked with Kozue, but that was one-on-one, so I don't... Oh my god, wait. Wait, does that make sense? I don't know if it... Because Narasaki was reading a psychology book in the library, right? When she was talking with Kozue. Was that supposed to be the same book that Sachiko took out of the library in Tokyo? And she brought it here? Or did she say that she took out that psychology book from this library right here? Not sure. But either way, like Narasaki talking to Kozue, whether that's Sachiko or whether that's Narasaki, I don't think it changes much. Has any character ever referred to Narasaki as Narasaki? I guess that's a question. I woke up in the middle of the night and decided to simply kill some time here. I wonder if I'm getting old. Whenever this happens, I usually come here to think. Still, I did have a feeling you'd be coming back, so that was part of the reason too. What do you normally think about here? All sorts of things. Lily didn't say anything else. She must have fallen deep in thought. Her whisper reached my ears even from this distance. However, compared to that whisper, some of her previous words would pass by me and go too far, or wouldn't reach me properly. She appeared to have been testing how low her voice could go with me still hearing it, almost like she was fine-tuning a sonar system. It was a bit too complicated for me, so instead I simply walked over to the counter, where I could finally see her sitting in the chair. She looked up at me. What were you doing outside at such a late hour? I went out for a walk, but I ended up getting lost. Getting lost in my mind palace. Lily's expression clouded over. How many people come to our mountains, which make the area a relatively popular suicide spot? Really? As you can see, we don't have that many guests at this inn. Usually only 2 or 3, even during the high season. And most of them are regulars. It's rare to have even a single guest during the off season. That was fine though. That I can see. As I imagine what Lily could be thinking about here at night, she continued. I've been working here for a long time. I've seen many guests that came back and many that didn't. What kind of guests didn't come back? Some we found, others we didn't, Lily said with a sigh. I remembered the mountain I saw from the mansion's window. It was covered with trees from top to bottom. You couldn't even make out the roads. It couldn't have been easy to find a person in there. Can I tell you something odd? Sure. In retrospect, all those guests had the peculiar air that separated them from the rest. Well, I imagine they come off as different compared to regular tourists. I suppose so, but I don't think it's that simple. It wasn't just their personality or a few individual quirks. When I saw them, the difference I feel was about as large and obvious as a sudden change of color or shape on an object. How do I look to you? I don't want you to take this the wrong way, but I noticed that you have that same kind of air about you. Although, there's something unusual about it in your case. When I first saw you, I only felt that way about half of you. Okay, being really, really obvious with it. Well, long story short, I was worried for you, though maybe in a slightly different way from Nanae. Specifically, the red half. Perhaps what she was saying was the truth. I grew curious about her method of sensing these things, but it probably wasn't something that could be explained overnight. Your face is all red, Lily suddenly said. I touched my cheek, feeling it cold as ice. I might have been warmly dressed, but I did spend most of the night outside. A fairly natural consequence, but being so deep in thought, I didn't notice it at all. I think you should take a shower before going to bed. Do you want me to heat up the bath? No, I'll be fine. I waved my hand in denial while she made a troubled expression. Then can I at least make you something warm to drink? I love that. I felt like I'd make her worry even more if I refused, so I had her deliver the drink to my room. And that room being? Yeah, okay. I turn on. Okay, so this does explain. On the first night that Narasaki came to this hotel, I kept complaining like, where the fuck is she even sleeping? She arrived at like 4 a.m. There's no one else awake. But I guess she just she was Sachiko, so she's just okay. I guess that does explain that also. I turned on the heater as I returned to the room and changed it into my inside clothes. I combed my hair for a while, then tidied it up in my room to kill some time, and moved everything from the table as well as the coat and the chair out of the sight. Finishing that, I looked out the window. It was dark outside. I couldn't even see the moon. Lily knocked on my door. As I took the tray from her, she glanced at the heater in my room. Wasn't there a scene though? Was there not a scene where Sachiko and Narasaki and Kozue were all in the same room talking to each other? Am I making that up? Yeah, there was, right? They were playing chess or something? I would need to go back and read that scene. Maybe Narasaki just didn't say anything. Or maybe... From Kozue's POV, did it look like Sachiko was talking to herself and the doll, and she was just playing chess against herself? As I took the tray from her, she glanced at the heater in my room. It shouldn't grow much colder tonight, but it's a good idea to keep the heater on when you sleep. I nodded. You can keep the tray in your room. Thank you very much. Don't mention it, said Lily with a smile. She then closed the door. I placed a tray on the table, sat down in the nearby chair, and picked up the cup. It warmed my frozen hand to the porcelain coating. I could tell by the sweet smell that the liquid inside was cocoa. There was also a small plate on the tray with cookies and strawberry jam, or at least some sweets that looked very much like that. I gave the cookies a careful look as I continued sipping my cocoa. A lot happened tonight. It felt like it had been ages since I'd been into this room. I thought about Sachiko. I felt responsible for her ending up in that dark cave. It wasn't Nanae's word that caused it at all. Regardless of what happened, there was no way she could have reached the cave leading to the other side all by herself. It was a place for beings like myself. Okay, Freddy Krueger, and only I could have known the way to it. I didn't know how, but my existence probably led her there somehow. When I came to, I realized that both the cup and the sweet plate were empty. Walking for so long must have made me hungrier than I thought. I glanced at the bed, but I didn't feel sleepy at all. After thinking for a few moments, I placed the empty cup on the tray, picked it up, and left the room. Lily was still behind the counter in the lobby when I came down the stairs. Is something the matter? Thank you very much for the treats. Having a hard time falling asleep? Asked Leah. She took the tray from me and shoved it in the cupboard. Seems that way. I might not be one to talk, but it's healthier to go to sleep while it's still dark. I agree, I said with a nod, then asked if it wasn't cold in here. So, like, in the past few days, Sachiko keeps mentioning that and it's been obvious that she keeps being extremely sleepy and falling asleep. Does she just, like, think she's falling asleep, but she's waking up as Narasaki? I'm used to it. It doesn't bother me when I'm so deep in thought. Why do you do your thinking here in the lobby? That's a good question. It'll take a while to explain though. How long exactly? Quite long. I wouldn't want you to freeze to death while listening to me, at any rate. You said we would have plenty more opportunities to talk. However, I didn't feel like being alone right now. Besides, there was something I wanted to ask her. Could we maybe talk in my room then? Lily paused to think for a few seconds and asked me if I wanted more cocoa. Yes, please. Lily nodded. Then we can talk until we finish the cup. Actually, I was getting bored here by myself too. Why are you at the reception desk at 4 a.m.? Are you just checking to see that we don't leave again and try to kill ourselves? Lily stood up, took out the tray from the cupboard again, and stepped out from behind the counter. I returned to my room and turned up the heat a bit. I waited in front of it until I heard a knock at the door. Opening the door, I saw Lily standing there in an apron. There were 2 cups in the tray she carried, as well as a cloth bag hanging from her right elbow. We sat down at the table facing each other. Lily handed me one of the cups, then picked the other one and took a sip. Back in the past, my friend would go out at night just like you, and I'd wait for her in the lobby like this. You have to pass by it regardless of which entrance you use. Who was it? The same friend I mentioned to you before, the one that went missing. I remember Lily's horror story from 2 days ago. So that was a real story after all? I dramatized it a little, but it's true that my friend disappeared. Okay, so they killed themselves. You may remember how I said that she and I both lived here for a long time, so there was no need to worry about her getting lost or anything, but that time was just different. It happened shortly after her young daughter passed away. How did she pass away? She drowned in the river. Okay. I almost couldn't believe it at first, as the rivers here are really shallow. We had lots of rain over a period of a few weeks, and the increase in water apparently loosened the riverbed. I thought Takako would have died by drowning, but I guess it was this girl's daughter. It was like she stepped into quicksand and ended up being sucked underwater. My friend's husband passed away sometime before that too. Anyway, she was severely depressed during that period. Lily picked up her cup, which reminded me that I hadn't even started my drink yet. Either way, I lifted my cup as well. The sweet aroma of the cocoa washed over my nostrils as I drew the cup closer to my lips. She was always such a high-spirited and cheerful person, but after the incident, she began shutting herself up in her room. Even when we meet once in a blue moon, she would barely speak. One day, around the time I started thinking about how I should do something for her before things spiraled out of control, I spotted her going out to the inner yard. When I approached her, she actually had her usual cheerful expression. I asked her what she was doing, and she told me she spotted a rare butterfly through her window. A butterfly? Yes, she used to collect insects as a hobby. I asked her if she wanted me to bring an insect net, but she refused. Anyway, seeing her like that relieved me a little. I figured she managed to get over it somehow. She resumed her work as usual and went back to talking like she used to. She even began smiling again. I heard a clang. I glanced down to see Lily's cup on the tray. But after that few days, she went outside and never came back. Isn't that the thing with like suicidal people? Like after they make up their mind to kill themselves, they tend to like appear a bit more happy for a bit. Like after they've locked in their decision. I couldn't see what was inside her cup. I thought about all sorts of things as I waited for her at the counter. Where was she right now? Why didn't she tell me anything? What was the name of that rare butterfly she spotted? We can go back to Takako's chapter and find out whatever butterfly was in the room. It's probably the same, right? You didn't go looking for her? I looked for her everywhere I could think of, but I had a feeling I wouldn't find her. I didn't really think she'd return, even though I was waiting in the lobby. I don't know why I felt that way, but I was almost certain I was right. But I didn't have a similar feeling, nor did I suspect anything back when she was still around. Something that cause that made her disappear lies somewhere beyond my knowledge. Maybe somewhere in her room, seeing how she used to lock herself up in there so often. I felt my throat getting dry, so I took a sip of cocoa. But I digress. You want to know where I spend my nights behind the counter? Probably because that place had always been where I spend the most time thinking. I wonder if she was still waiting for her friend, but it wasn't really my business to pry. Instead, I asked about something I found curious. The premonition you were talking about, that was the same feeling you talked about when I came back tonight, correct? Yes. You said that only half of me made you feel it, though. It was very odd, I admit. How about now? I don't feel it that strongly anymore. The anxiety in my heart lit up with her words. That half had probably been me. If her intuition was on point, the only remaining issue was to question my existence. I see. I was curious about the exact mechanism that drove her premonition, but I didn't feel she'd be able to explain it in a manner comprehensible to me. That's right. Lily raised her face as she pulled out something from the bag she had placed by her chair. It was the doll I gave her 2 days ago. I'll return this to you. I took the doll from her hand and gave it a look. The stains had vanished along with any trace of loose threads. Damn, the nurse was lying. She could clean it. It looked more colorful than before. You actually had to strain your eyes to make out any traces of the stain at the doll's mouth. What do you think? I couldn't completely get rid of all the stains, but I still think it came out pretty well. I'll be honest, I never expected it to be this clean. I'm glad to hear that. I looked at the doll's face one more time. Its perpetual smile seemed to beam with pride. Looking at its face made me feel a mixture of sadness and bittersweet joy, so much so that I ended up knitting my brows. Well, I suppose it's about time I was on my way. Lily placed her empty cup in the saucer beneath it on the tray. I gulped down the remaining cocoa I still left on the bottom of my cup. It felt like ice. Did you invite me for tea because I gave you that feeling? Back then, I was just curious about Nanae's new friend. I placed my empty cup on the tray. However, Lily remained seated. Her eyes traveled between the doll and my face. You'll think I'm strange, but what is it? It's the first time I told anyone about this. I might have all sorts of feelings and premonitions, but I normally keep them to myself. And what did you tell me? You remind me of my friend a lot, and I thought to keep this to myself, but... Lily's gaze shifted to the doll. I never learned where my friend left us, but in your case, I feel like it's somehow related to that doll. I was flabbergasted by the keenness of her intuition. However, I made sure not to let the surprise show on my face. Her remarks completely overlap with my own conclusion. Why do you think that? It's mostly just my intuition, but after my friend's daughter passed away, she carried a memento of hers everywhere. I felt like this doll had a similar history. I see. Lily's dark brown eyes gazed at the doll. It belongs to my friend. I too shifted my eyes to the clean doll. She would confide in it when things got tough, but I don't think she needs it anymore. She's not exactly in the age to play with dolls anymore, and I feel the doll itself is getting frustrated by not being able to do anything to help. Okay, obviously she's talking about herself. I see. Lily made a faint smile. She stood up with her bag hanging from her elbow and picked up the tray. I did the same and opened the door for her. Thanks. I saw a whole bunch of leaves scattered by the door. Are you going to clean them up tomorrow morning too? Yes. What about you? I'll go for a walk after I get some sleep. That's a good idea. Let's have another chat if the opportunity swings by. Sure. Good night, and with that, Lily left her room. After saying goodbye, I closed the door. Where does the librarian fit into all this? What's Inukai's grand scheme? Oh, tips. At the end of the second trip. Okay, I still don't see what the... Okay, now Sachiko wakes up in the room. For the tips, it's like, it's weird, because tips number 1, Narasaki's clinic, I feel like all these just take place inside Sachiko's mind, right? And it's like some sort of metaphor for what's happening in her head. Like the items disappearing of Takako's could be like, oh, she's forgetting things about Takako, or whatever. And like, I feel like it fits pretty well if you just assume that. And the whole thing with like Narasaki not having the lock, the key to like leave the clinic or whatever, and the whole thing not really making sense. So I felt like that's fine. Tips number 3, I feel like that also makes sense. It's just like memories for like extra scenes, like in between other scenes we saw. Like I feel like I know where all of these took place pretty much. Like none of these are really mysterious. But tips number 2 is really weird. Like this was just, I assumed it was Nanae, because I think she mentioned like owning a mansion in the woods, right? In the mountain. So I assumed this was Nanae's POV, but I'm not sure. And if it is, I don't see like how she fits into all of this. Maybe we'll find out at the end of the second trip. Is that the zoo or? Wake up, it looks incredible outside. Feeling like someone was calling out to me, I opened my eyes. The seats of the bus trembled as the driver skillfully navigated through the crooked country road. I'd finally managed to fall asleep just earlier, but I didn't feel like I could repeat the feat again. Resigning myself to the fate, I instead looked out the window. There was no point to even confirm that the seat next to me had been unoccupied. The voice that woke me up came from a distant memory. A friend that used to be by my side was no longer there. I said that, but it wasn't like she had passed away or anything. It was just that one day she forgot all her memories about me. Okay? She probably did it consciously too. I still couldn't understand the reason why. We had known each other since we were little. She had always been a little strange, but I simply couldn't imagine her ending up like that, giving her personality. The bus finally reached a mountain path. Oh, is this still Nanae? Looking out the window, I started spotting patches of snow as we drove uphill. The amount of snow increased the higher we went. By the time my ears started ringing from the pressure difference between the lowlands and the mountain, the snow walls around the road had exceeded the bus's height. I remember my friend saying how the sight reminded her of Moses and the Red Sea. Okay, so your friend is... Wait, who said that? Oh god. Was it Sachiko or Takako that said that? One of those two definitely said that very recently. Oh, who was it? I could go back and check. The tour conductor stood up from her seat and began talking about their trip. Basically, we could do whatever we wanted as long as we returned to the bus on time. She then began explaining the 2 alternate courses the passengers were free to choose from. One for beginners and another for the more experienced. The bus stopped almost at the same time as her explanation ended. The tour guide reminded us of the departure time one more time before the bus door opened. The passengers scattered, each of them going in their chosen direction. Reminiscing about the last time I'd been here, I turned 360 degrees to take in the snowy panorama surrounding me. The sky was clear and blue above the white mountains, just like back then. Hey, so where do we go for a beginner's course? She asked me. Weren't you listening? Well, I wasn't. I thought you would anyway. I guess we both got a bit overly excited by the snow, I deflected. Okay, so it seems like this would be more of a Takako thing to say. Oh, well then let's follow where everyone's going. I don't want to panic over small details like this, and she wasn't the type to complain about them either. We found the longest string of people nearby and mixed in with them, eventually entering a relatively small wooden structure. Inside, we found a souvenir store and a cable car station. We observed a line of tourists buying tickets to the cable car. We did the same and lined up behind them. From a closer look, I realized it was a trolley bus, not a cable car. I checked the faces of people around us as we waited. I hadn't memorized the faces of our tour mates, but I was pretty sure I'd never seen these people before. It seemed like we had mixed in with an entirely different group. She was looking around as well, probably thinking the same thing. I've never ridden a trolley bus before, she said. Me neither. It seemed like she had grown a little worried. Looks like it's going through a tunnel, I said. She replied. Once the trolley bus had parked next to us, we boarded it with the rest of the tourists. The seat at the front was open, so I sat down there. We had the same spot back then too. The same speedometer caught my eyes as back then. The tunnel I could see through the front window was dark and narrow. Being in a bus racing through that tunnel at a relatively high speed was quite thrilling. Back then, I didn't really have time to enjoy it though. We were looking at the trolley bus timetable to confirm whether we could get back to our bus in time, but we weren't sure what to do or how long it would all take, so we couldn't even make an educated guess. The trolley bus stopped. We arrived at a place that looked a lot like the wooden structure we left, with an almost identical souvenir store and a bus station. Relying on my own memories, I left the souvenir store and ascended the concrete stairs. I opened the door at the top of the stairs and entered the lookout area, a dark mountain ridge extending in front of me in the distance. The lookout was built at an angle that allowed a field view of the mountains, provided the weather was clear. Layers of snow covered the mountains like a set of beautiful white roofs sparkling into the blue sky. I had been to a lot of places, but nowhere else could I see colors like that. Confirming that the scenery hadn't changed over the years, I drew away from the railing and found a bench to sit down on further back. This time I simply took in the scenery over the heads of the other tourists. Eventually, a group came in through the door and completely blocked my field of view. A guide began introducing the mountain, talking over gasps of awe from the newcomers. I closed my eyes, forming the scenery of the mountain in my mind, as well as myself sitting next to my friend. Unable to find the words to express myself, I simply shifted my eyes from one corner of the breathtaking scenery to the other. She was better with words than me, so I gave up on coming up with something to do the scenery justice, and instead waited for her to say something. However, as unusual as it was, she remained silent as well. Instead, she seemed to be too taken in by the scenery to talk. Because it really seems like we haven't gotten confirmation, but it really seems like we're Sachiko and we're talking about Takako. Okay, wait, I just noticed something. This little arrow here is green. Is it always green? Or is it a different color when we're someone else? Hang on. This will take 2 seconds to check. Here it's green. Here. Okay, so it's just green everywhere. Okay. So that's not a clue. Okay. So I assume we're Sachiko right now. But why does he say Takako forgot about her and not that she died? The mountains were indeed amazing, but she was also gazing at the white plains extending below them. Oh my, is it gonna be something like... Because I guess the only confirmation, the only indication that we have that Takako is dead is that we saw the funeral scene, and I guess Fumi did say that Takako was dead. But did she say that she was dead in like a... She's dead like mentally because she forgot about us? Or like, is she actually physically dead? If she wasn't, I don't know why you would hold a funeral. But I guess Narasaki was at the funeral. So was that funeral even real? Or was that a funeral in Sachiko's mind? I don't know. The mountains were indeed amazing, but she was also gazing at the white plains extending below them. Oh. Okay, never mind. I was completely wrong. This is Lily. Is this whose POV we're looking at right now, or is this your friend? The guide's piece ended and the lookout fell silent as the group left. Only a few families that didn't seem to belong to any group still lingered around. "You're not going to join the walk down, young lady?" asked a man that had unexpectedly sat down beside me a bit earlier. I was in my late 20s, so I looked around to confirm whether he wasn't addressing someone else. Okay, I guess it would make sense if we were Lily. Because I assumed we were Nanae from the first tip, because it mentioned that the character owned like a mansion or a hotel in the mountain. But I guess Lily, that also fits Lily. So I guess we were Lily in the first tips. Okay. And the friend she's talking about is presumably the friend that disappeared? But no, she said that the friend forgot about her. Is the friend Nana's mom? Or, I don't know. I was in my late 20s, so I looked around to confirm whether he wasn't addressing someone else. But there was no one else around me, so I nodded. At a closer look, the man looked like he was in his 50s or 60s. His thick, naked wrists, peeking out from under his coat, indicated that he either did sports or worked in the fields. Both required quite a bit of physical strength. The scenery is amazing down there. I almost wouldn't believe it's Japan. What about you? Are you not going? I didn't have much experience speaking to someone in his age group, which made me somewhat hesitant. Nonetheless, I ended up responding to him anyway. I ran out of the breath, so I decided to take a break here. Besides, I've already been there like 100 times. The man looked at me. You don't look like a part of the tour. You're traveling alone? I wore weather clothes that favored mobility over style, and had a large backpack on my shoulders. I must have looked like a wilderness camper, truth be told. You could say that. How long have you been traveling? About half a year now. That's nice, said the man. He then went on, it's best to travel while you're still young. Do you have a goal of some sorts? I mulled over his question for a bit. I began my trip because I thought it would help me understand why my friend had lost all of her memories of me. Who's your friend? Is it, fucking Sanae? Or, I don't know. It was prompted by my trip to a zoo half a year ago. That day, I felt like I saw a side of her I'd never known before. I felt like I could find out even more if I traced our shared steps. Is your friend the friend that... Okay, you're talking about the zoo friend, right? Or are you talking about the friend that gave you the furniture? Because the friend that gave you the furniture still remembered who you were, even if she kind of like brushed you off. It was hard to explain it in concrete terms though. I thought about it some more on my train ride home, but I couldn't come up with anything in the end. Then I figured I'd get off at the same station we used to in the past. I guess I don't really have much of a goal. I just got a long break from work, so I gave him one side of the story. The man continued to ask me questions for some time. I told him about the route that led me here, and mentioned a few things that happened along the way. As we ran out of things to discuss and fell silent, the man glanced at the clock. Would you like to read a book? I reached into my backpack and took out a paperback novel I've been reading on the bus. It was called SeaBed. I don't care much for books. They're all just a pack of lies anyway. Okay. He shifted his gaze to the dam at the bottom of the mountain range. Back when I was a young'un, we didn't have electricity here. The small villages all had diesel plants, but they kept failing all the time. So when I was in elementary school, I had my teacher tell me all about how their engines work. They weren't all that complicated, but without any knowledge, even the easiest fix would be a huge hurdle, let me tell you. Are you a mechanic? No, I didn't become that. We didn't have electricity, but we were short on food too, so I worked in the fields and would go sell the extra yield to the neighboring villages. And well, I couldn't tell you how they learned about me knowing a thing or two about gizmos, but one day they asked me to fix a power plant. A power plant? I see. He was telling me about a time long before I was born. I understood why he was specialized in the sciences, but it didn't explain why he didn't like books. Could be just a generation gap. Well, all things have a reason, the man said. I couldn't tell whether he was talking about the fact he didn't like books, or if he had already returned to the issue of my trip not having a goal. Before I had the chance to confirm that, it was time for me to board my trolley bus. I said goodbye to the man and descended from the lookout. I returned to the bus stop in the wooden building and killed some time in the souvenir store while waiting for the trolley bus to come. I spotted some cookies and chocolate and named with the location. You could see those a lot at places like this. There were also some local character goods. I recently found a plushie of a snow chicken particularly cute. It was a bird whose feathers would turn white in winter. There was a big statue of it by the entrance. There was also some picture of it for sale. I suddenly realized my friend was probably looking for this bird from the lookout. I didn't realize it back then, but it was quite obvious in retrospect given how much of a bird lover she was. Bird lover, you say? Bird lover. Bird lover. I mean, my mind jumped instantly to Kozue. But I feel like every character in the story just knows the name of every single bird they see. So I don't know if that narrows it down a lot. My trolley bus would soon arrive, so I moved over to the bus stop. I ended up not buying anything. I almost bought a tasty looking batera, but then I remembered seeing it cheaper at the main station, which made me change my mind. I decided to buy it later so I could enjoy it in the comfort of my train compartment on my way back. I was the first person to board the bus. I took my seat and waited. This time I spotted some familiar faces among the people who boarded after me. Once the time came to leave and the other tourists had assembled, the guide made sure that everyone was present. After that, the bus rolled out of the station towards its next destination. It was the highest waterfall in the country. Last time she made the 30-minute trip up that perilous mountain path all by herself, just to reach the waterfall at the end of it. I given up as soon as I saw the slope and waited for her at the nearby cafe. This time I'd go where she went. I glanced at the neighboring seat. She looked out the window with narrowed eyes. "We should bring a pair of sunglasses next time," she remarked. It's this color? Really? Okay. I guess that's just the tip color, yeah. Okay. Interesting. I'm not sure who Lily's friend is. I don't get the... Wait, I wanted to look at something. Let me save. Sorry, I just wanted to... Fuck, I skipped it again. Just the thing about the waterfall at the end. What do you mean she made the 30-minute trip up that perilous mountain path all by herself? What do you mean by that? Oh, I guess the bus stops like at the bar. Okay, yeah, okay, never mind. I get it. This time I'd go where she went. Okay, never mind. It's fine. It's fine. Morning sun, and Sachiko wakes up in her room. Curious. What about you on screen? Cause I'm you're a little suspicious. A little suspicious, like a character from Among Us. As I roll around in bed, the sheets slid down to my shoulders. I opened my eyes and sat up. The decorative plant with heart-shaped leaves and the sheep figurine sparkled in the morning sun, making me narrow my eyes. I placed the palm on my empty stomach. I felt like I could start rumbling at any second now. Did I have anything for dinner? Before I knew it, the world beyond the window had turned snow white. Some frost had formed on the window glass and was sparkling in the sun. I gazed at it for a few minutes, then climbed out of bed. Things are going to be awkward if we talk with Nanae right now. The sweet aroma of coffee filled the cafeteria when I stepped inside. I spotted Nanae sleeping on her seat by the window, with her head resting on the windowsill. There was a plate with a piece of toast on the table, right next to a half-empty cup of coffee. I began reaching out towards Nanae's shoulders, but stopped midway. Good morning. Nanae addressed me while I was still staring at the frying pan. Good morning. I'm sorry for using the kitchen without permission. Don't worry about it. It's my fault anyway. You should have woken me up. You look like you were deep in thought. Because she thought you killed yourself. Did I? Then it sounded a laugh. I slid the fried egg over to the plate with the toast while also adding some salad for garnish. I didn't left the counter with said plate in hand and placed it on the table Nana was sitting at. About yesterday. What? Never mind, it's nothing. Okay then. You know, I don't think I've ever had fried eggs with toast before. Consider the content of my plate. It's just an old habit. My housemate loved fried eggs. I just thought about it. From her POV, it looks like she just asked this girl to live with her, and then the girl disappears and tries to kill herself. That's what it looks like from her POV. I see. If there wasn't at least one thing she liked on the plate, she wouldn't ever shut up about it. Can I have a taste? Go ahead. Nanae held up her piece of toast with 3 fingers and extended it towards me. After I placed a slice of fried egg on it, she took a bite. It's both salty and sweet. Pretty good, actually. Thanks. Can I have more? Sure. Nanae thanked me and picked up another piece of toast. I put some fried eggs on it again. Oh yeah, I heard you took a liking to our library. Auntie said she often sees you there. Yeah, the silence helps me relax. That place is full of ancient books and not much else. I doubt you find anything useful. Perhaps you're right. There's a particular shelf behind the stairs I tend to frequent. It has some more modern novels along with magazines about cooking and fashion. Shelf behind the stairs. That was mentioned in there was a passage about something behind the stairs, right? Like a window or something? Oh, no, never mind. That was when... I think that was from when Takako and Sachiko were moving into their new place. I think this is different. Okay, never mind. I see you like keeping your things organized. Depends on the thing. Do you not like the library? It's not that. The place is a bit too silent for me, though. When I look high up at the ceiling, it makes me feel like I'm a dead fish that sank at the bottom of the sea. Bottom of the sea, you say? All it contains is old information and records that are no longer relevant to our age. It reminds me of old stuff like ancient rusted bicycles and cans that people fish out from the sea. I thought you liked old things. I like old things that still serve a function. Nani suddenly made an awkward smile. I'm sorry about yesterday. I was really drunk. I was the coffee cup on the table. When I looked up, I saw Nani covering her face with one hand. I started running my mouth like some know-it-all. I'm getting all embarrassed just remembering it. It's okay, I'm not upset. Doing your hair like my dead girlfriend while trying to come on to me was a bit weird, though. I don't know how you even know what my dead girlfriend did her hair like, because you've never met her. I don't know how you knew that, but I sometimes forget to think about the consequences of my actions. Everyone does that sometimes. This reminds me of the worst essay I wrote in my life, back when I applied to an art school. I didn't know what to write about, so I began describing what kind of talents I had in minute detail. Normally, you'd write about your motivation and plans for the school year, but I did so many things that make me want to kill myself in retrospect. I always tell myself not to run my mouth, but it all falls apart the moment I get too excited about something. Well, if you want to kill yourself, Nanae, I think I have a great spot for you. Well, we all fit into this world like puzzle pieces, after all. Like, I don't know if you're trying to help, but I'd appreciate it if you didn't bring that up again. Really? Well, I'll interpret it in a positive way this time. Nanae made a faint smile. I ended up unable to continue to smile myself, and continued cheerfully chatting for a while. Okay, but is the offer still on the table? After we had finished, and then I picked up our empty plates on the table, walked behind the counter, and began washing them in the sink. She offered me a second cup of coffee, but I refused. I've been feeling sleepy since morning, but I didn't feel like caffeine would help. Oh, time for Narasaki to show up. With my head still feeling somewhat heavy, I looked around the cafeteria while sipping what remained of my coffee. Ever since coming here, I'd been the only guest to use this huge room. When I thought about it that way, it all felt really extravagant. Yeah, I don't know how they keep this place running. For a while, I gazed at the lavish stained glass and the decorations on the lamps around it. Eventually, my eyes wandered to the picture on the wall. The first one I looked at was a group picture with Nanae, her mother, and Lily. I gazed traveled further, passing by pictures of Nanae when she was little, then a wall by the mansion that was no longer here. As I gazed at Nanae's childhood pictures, I suddenly felt like something was off. I stopped on one particular picture and gave it a closer look. Nanae and some other child were playing in a plastic pool. The inner yard of the mansion was visible in the background. As I frowned, trying to figure out what was bothering me, I suddenly saw something in the corner of my eye. I ran to the window and saw Narasaki walking through the inner yard. Excuse me? Narasaki passed by the road leading to the library. I left the cafeteria and followed her, eventually finding an incinerator just before the exit to the mountain path. Narasaki stood in front of it with her back turned to me. I took a slow step forward, trying not to alert her. However, I ended up stepping on a dry tree twig. Tree twig. I don't know why I can't say that. Tree twig. There we go. It cracked loudly under my foot. Hey! She turned around and took one hand out of her pocket to greet me. Are you gonna throw the doll in the incinerator? I continued towards Narasaki while all the twigs and the withered leaves popped and cracked under my feet. I wanted to surprise you, but it's impossible on a road like this. Narasaki's usual sleepy-looking eyes slightly widened. I don't recall you being the type to pull cute little pranks. Hey, even I can enjoy stuff like that when I'm in a good mood. Oh, Narasaki smiled. I lined up next to her and looked at the incinerator. What are you doing? I was taking a walk when I found a nice place to warm up. The temperature really dropped down this morning, didn't it? Indeed. Crimson light illuminated her from behind. The tongues of the flame danced wildly within the central hole of the incinerator. Narasaki's red logs swinging in the hot wind looked almost like they were on fire. I was reading the bird encyclopedia and felt like trying to find some specimen out in the wild, so I went out into the forest. You wouldn't believe how cold it was. Still, the fog covering the area lent the scenery an alluring, otherworldly quality. Did you find your birds in the end? I heard all sorts of chirping, but I could only spot a few through the fog. The best one was a scaly thrush sitting on the stem of a winter sweet. Of course you know that. That was quite a charming sight. That sounds nice. I'd love to see that too. Better wear a thicker coat then. I can't talk. The forest is freezing cold in the morning. Noted. Masaki was right. I could already feel the cold wind robbing me of heat. I took a step towards gazing at the dancing flames in the incinerator's mouth. I glanced at Narasaki, spotting a stain of soot, perhaps dirt, on her face. Soot, I think, not soot. While taking a closer look, I realized that the sleeve of her white coat was covered in dirt too. How far did you go? I got up pretty early, so I must have wandered quite far into the woods. Is this supposed to parallel how the doll also had dirt on its face? After I pointed out the stain on her face, she brushed it off with her hand. I suppose you never were one to show restraint. I got a sudden job request, so I'm leaving in the evening. It's not every day I can come so deep into the mountains, so I figured I'd experience as much of the place as possible to make sure I wouldn't regret it later. Well, that was certainly sudden. That's how jobs work. I suppose so. What's your plan for me? You haven't been listening or hearing things lately, correct? Except for right now, obviously, but perhaps not right now, but who knows when I might relapse. Masaki made a troubled face and shook her head. To be honest, I wasn't planning to come here to begin with. For one, you seem to be getting better, but there was also the possibility that I myself could end up facilitating your hallucinations. Nonetheless, if something does happen, don't be afraid to turn to the people here for help. Nane will understand, and it seems like Lily actually has experience with your kind of condition. As for Kojire, she will lend you an ear at least. She might be little, but she's smart. They're all on your side. Masaki threw the dry twig she'd been holding into the incinerator. There's a low pop, and a trace of ash burst into the air. Well, I guess I'll survive. I observed a black, burning lump of soot, but it soon fell apart and lost its prior shape. A wisp of smoke billowed from the chimney, carrying the excess ash away. I wonder what they were burning here. No idea. No matter what it was, it's just ash now. That's the sad way to put it. Not really. Ash rises into the air and melts with clouds, only to return to the earth with rain. It fertilizes the ground and gives birth to plants. And eventually those plants get digested by animals and turn into meat. There are lots of things you can do even after you become ash. Okay, Narasaki, thank you. So you can still return to life even from that state. I wonder if I could return to being myself after traveling all over the world as ash. That'd be another person at that point. It'd be interesting if they retain your personality, but they wouldn't know me, and I wouldn't know them. Narasaki smiled as she gazed in front of her. The human body has about 60 trillion cells, and they keep dying and being replaced by fresh ones. Shut up! The cells in the head have a somewhat longer lifespan, but they all get replaced within a year or so as well. If you look at it like that, you're no longer the same person you were a year ago. We both chuckled. No one would know this though. Narasaki replied with a smile. We then spent some time silently gazing at the flames and their prey in the incinerator. I think we should head back. We might catch a cold out here. Narasaki most likely noticed me rubbing my arms. Okay, I said and returned to the mansion with her. After a couple of steps, I turned behind to look at the incinerator again. What's wrong? Narasaki, who had been walking in front of me, also turned around. I felt like something had pricked my heart. It was a very faint feeling, but I was certain it wasn't just my imagination. I focused on the sensation, trying to submerge myself into the darker corner of my mind, where the answer most likely lay, but couldn't quite succeed. I came to when Narasaki placed her hand on my shoulder. Did you remember something bad? After touching my face to confirm my expression, I shook my head. Why do you ask? Because you look a little pale. Really? I began walking towards the inner yard with Narasaki trailing behind me. Speaking of which, you two are planning to make a rest area in here, aren't you? Asked Narasaki as we reached the lobby. Nane wants to use this corner for it. You sure there's enough space? It's not like that many people come here, at least according to Nanae. Besides, the place is more atmospheric when it's a bit cramped. Sure. Really? Well, I'm not really an expert on artistic things, so I wouldn't know. As I scanned my memory for the layout we decided on with Nanae, my heart began beating fast as I realized that the incinerator and the smoke billowing from a chimney earlier reminded me of a funeral. That was all. I kept telling myself there was nothing more to it. If you got no other plans, I'd recommend going to sleep early tonight. I'm sorry, are you saying that Takako got cremated at the funeral? Is that how that works? I feel like that's usually done earlier, right? Or later? No, that's not earlier, usually. I don't think you do that at the funeral. I don't know. If you got no other plans, I recommend going to sleep early tonight. All I've done recently was sleep, I said while recalling all my napping spots across the mansion. You came here to take a break from work, didn't you? If you feel sleepy, then sleep to your heart's content while you have the chance. No one's gonna drag you out of bed here. Okay, but you've been here for like how many weeks? You gotta go back to work at some point. Now that Narasaki mentioned it, I didn't indeed feel somewhat drowsy. I felt like I'd fall asleep as soon as I hit the bed. I suppose you have a point. It wasn't like I had anything important to do here, so I listened to my doctor and went straight to my room. Narasaki climbed the stairs and walked down the corridor with me, almost like some kind of bodyguard. The warm air caressed my chill body as I opened the door. It was much warmer than I thought, so I glanced at the heater, but it was off. I held my card on the back of the chair and sat down on the bed. Narasaki closed the curtains and began filling with the heater, trying to set the most comfortable temperature. I lay down on the bed, closed my eyes, and opened them again to look at Narasaki. She was on her way to leave the room. I addressed her back, making her turn around. I wanted to thank her, but I wasn't entirely sure what for. You want me to stay by your side until you fall asleep? Narasaki returned and sat down in the chair. We spent some time chatting. She remained seated in the chair while I was still lying in bed. Her voice relaxed me. You need the imagination for that kind of work. She made a remark about the company Takako and I founded. Have you ever thought of ideas as a spring? Not really, but I remember Takako saying something along those lines. She likened them to a well, though. I think she said that every person had their own well inside them, and that all the feelings they had felt up until that point were stored there. And to convey them to other people, you have to scoop them out of your well and carry them to theirs. But not much can fit into the palm of your hand, and you can't avoid spilling some along the way, so only a fraction gets conveyed in the end. That's why you've got to work for it. You've got to make yourself a bucket. Words, music, and pictures are a manifestation of it in the real world. People eventually discover different vessels for their souls. That's a nice metaphor. That's an interesting metaphor. That's my line. Takako must have done a good job if you really think that. I see. Indeed, there was something in her well, and you were truly in love with her. Where did that come from? You always cheer up when you start talking about her. Really? I was asleep before I realized it, and likely due to how often I slept during the day, I had yet another dream. I, as a little child, was in a small, round room. There were countless familiar-looking toys scattered on the floor. Someone was waiting for me by the door. Beyond it was a special waterway built by that person. Narasaki was already gone when I opened my eyes. I glanced at the door and remembered how she left. I'm glad I have someone like you to rely on, I said, still on the bed. No one truly cares about me now that Takako is gone. Hey, you've got plenty of friends in the office. Yes, but it's different when you've known someone for most of your life. Are you talking to her in your mind right now? When I'm talking with you, I always feel like I've returned to the past. Is that so? Narasaki broke her gaze. She smiled and wished me good night. Oh no, she's still there. Okay. I did the same and the door closed. I mean, she's still there, like, in her mind, because I still don't think Narasaki's real, but... Alright, stop here for now. We'll save here, I guess. Cool. Man, I wanna... Hang on. I'm just gonna do this right now. What chapter was it? Was it chapter 4? I think it was chapter 4. I'm looking for the scene of Sachiko, Narasaki, and Kozue talking to each other. Oh, this fucking scene. Hang on, let me read this. Who is I? Whose POV is this? Oh my god. It even says it right there. Takako is pressing her stethoscope against the belly of a doll. I think Nurse... Oh my... I should have known. Because, like, she says this, like, this seems like an innocent comment, but, like, you're supposed to read it as, like, it's a joke, because Narasaki's a doll. Like, even the doll is better than you. I should have known. I should have known. No, I should have known. Dude, I'm so stupid. It says Narasaki used it. I 100% could have gotten that if I just paid more attention in this scene. That's my bad. Okay, this too I wanted to look at. It's a book about psychological illnesses. Perception and Behavioral Psychology is the name of the book. Okay, so I guess she says she got it at the library, so I guess it's not the same book that that Sachiko checked out at the library in the prologue. Yeah, but why does he say she's a psychologist? Oh yeah, I forgot about you. Okay, yeah, you had a doll of fucking Mayuko. That is Mayuko, right? Wait. Wait. Did she say anything about the doll? Hibiki. Is that not Mayuko? Maybe Mayuko's last name is Hibiki. Hibiki Mayuko, who knows? She even says that the doll is a doctor. Oh wait, no, wait. I made the doll's hand move as though it was knocking on the door. Okay, no, okay. So Narasaki, aka Sachiko right now, is saying that the doll she is holding is Hibiki. So Hibiki is not the name of the little girl's doll. I am Maya, she's Lily. Are you saying the doll's name is Lily? As in the same Lily as... I don't know, man. The ghost chair, yeah, I remember. This is where they draw the tulip or whatever. Or the four-leaf clover. Yeah, ghost story, ghost chair. Very spooky. Kind of weird to tell a ghost story about your friend that killed themselves, by the way, but... This is where she talks about the sun rising in the west. Is Narasaki in this scene? No, okay. Interior design scene, remember that. Here, just her and Narasaki. Here's just Narasaki and Lily. Narasaki and Kozue. What are they talking about here? Oh yeah, this scene. Yeah. Okay, this is where they go to the onsen and then Sachiko trips out. Yep. And then Narasaki gets fucking... This girl gets really pussy. Yeah, she's really drunk. Yeah. Okay, I guess I made up that scene then? Unless it was in chapter 2, but I really doubt it. Wait, I want to see... Here. Sure is cold today. I need to wear a long sleeve trainer. How are you feeling? Why would she act like this if she was seeing Sachiko there after what she just did? That seems like such a weird reaction. But it has to be, right? But does she know that we have multiple personalities? And she realized that she was speaking to the wrong person, so she left quickly? I don't know, man. I don't know. I guess I made up that scene. I mean, I can check chapter 2 real quick. It won't take long. The Hilltop Mansion. Yep, ride the car, go up the mountain. Okay, all this doesn't matter until Narasaki shows up for what I'm looking for. Which is a bit later, I think. I forgot about that scene. I don't know what the point of that was. Why was there a CG of her randomly drying her hair? Okay, there we go. Narasaki shows up. She shows up right after Sachiko hallucinated Takako, right? This is where fucking what's her name? I keep forgetting her name. Nanae, it's written right here. Where Nanae already has her hair in Twin Tails here. Yeah, this is Nanae's mom. With her outfit being the way it is, this looks more like the doll that the little girl had than Maika. It's hard to tell because we don't see her hair color, but I guess it wouldn't be that crazy if. I mean, it would be weird if the girl had a doll of Nanae's mom randomly, but I guess. They're playing chess, yeah. Yeah. Okay. There we go. I didn't make this scene up. Okay. We were planning to meet with Miss Nanae's aunt in the afternoon, right? I'd like this girl to come with us if possible. I don't mind. What is Kozue seeing right now? Thanks, said Narasaki in a small voice. Okay, I guess it did say that she whispered this to us. So I guess maybe that exchange just happened in her head? Right? Yeah, lean closer to my ear. So I guess this implies that all this is whispered and that Kozue doesn't hear it. So I guess she doesn't say anything weird there. Good morning, Sachiko. This should have been another hint. She didn't say hello to Narasaki. She only said good morning to Sachiko and Kozue. I wasn't locked in enough. Is Narasaki supposed to still be here? She is, right? Yeah. As Narasaki made an awkward smile. Yeah, I should have noticed this. Again, she's saying Kozue is going with you too. She's not even mentioning Narasaki. Okay, in this scene, Narasaki should be here as well, right? It's kind of a long scene though. I don't know if I want to go through this like line by line, but... Hello, said Narasaki as I bowed my head. Fuck you. Narasaki walked over to the sofa, close to the window. After brushing off some of the accumulated dust, it collapsed on it with a sigh. I don't know if you did that or if you're imagining someone doing that. Okay, does Narasaki even say anything in this scene? Did you forget what you came here for, said Narasaki. Narasaki added. Narasaki allowed a suggestive mumble. Yeah, and she doesn't even say hello to Narasaki. She only says hello to Sachiko and Kozue. Wait, hang on. Lily shifted her gaze to Narasaki as well. She shifted her gaze to Narasaki. What do you mean by that? Do you mean she turned to face you? What about you? I don't know. I don't know. This feels a little cheap, to be honest. Yeah, you traveled the world. Yep. The Fujisaka family. I thought the well didn't exist anymore. I go see the princess off. Narasaki rose to her feet. Lily and I saw the two off. Did you? I don't know, like... I mean, I guess if you just take this part away, it still makes sense. You and Lily just saw Kozue off instead of Kozue and Narasaki. And then Narasaki's not here for the rest of the scene, so it doesn't matter. I wish I could just control F the word Narasaki to see if anyone called her Narasaki. I don't think so. What does Nanae say when she sees her? Real name's Yurika. Yeah, I mean, no one's saying her name, so like... Okay. Okay, that's enough. That's enough. Okay, I mean, it seems pretty definitive. Even though that one scene with Lily, Kozue, Narasaki, and Sachiko in like the underground room talking, that one is a little sus. But aside from that, it seems pretty definitive that Narasaki is just not real. I think I've mentioned that, like, as a theory at some point, that Narasaki is not real. But I guess I'm just really confused, because here it's like, whatever, it's fine. Because we're, like, in a closed space, and, you know, as long as no one says Narasaki, as long as, like, everyone who we think is talking to Narasaki is actually talking to Sachiko, as long as that's happening, it's fine. But I guess I'm just confused, like, what was happening in the prologue when Sachiko went to the clinic. Did she just imagine going to the clinic and she was just like reading her psychology book or something? We saw a scene of her walking outside the clinic and walking from the clinic to work. Like, did she imagine that? That seems strange, right? Or did she really did go to the clinic and she just spoke to a psychologist who she imagined to be Narasaki? I don't think that makes sense. I don't know. It's weird. Okay. I'm stopping here for now. Alright, see you next time for more fucking crazy reveals, probably. Alright, see ya.